All right, let's move on to our picks here. And boy, oh boy, Lucas, it was a tough week for the syndicate in week 4. 0-6 for your boys last week. But we are moving on to bigger and brighter pastures. A quick recap. Bit of a bad beat for myself. I picked Oklahoma minus 14 and a half at Cincy. I actually bet that at minus 13 and a half on Friday, so I won my actual bet. But for the basis of the pod, that is a loss as Oklahoma wins by 14. UCLA plus 4.5, we both took as our underdog of the week, and the Bruins never really threatened Utah offensively. I had the under 61.5 in USC Arizona State. The Sun Devils, surprisingly, almost put up 30 points on their own. You had the over 70.5 in Oregon and Colorado. You needed some points from the Buffaloes. Oregon did it for you. Colorado did not. You also had Ohio State minus 3.5
Rough.
at
Won
Notre
by 3.
Dame. Couple bad beats for us. Objectively, some bad beats, but I've also had some good beats for me this year, so I really can't complain. So, all right, Lucas, let's start with the underdog of the week. Let's start with our upsets. I'll let you go first. Give us your upset of the week.
So a principle that I don't really have is you bet if Lance Leipold is a heavy underdog, you bet for him. So I'm going with that. I'm taking Kansas plus 17 on the road in Austin. I know Texas has looked really good. They kicked the crap out of Baylor this past week, but I do think one, you have to go back a couple of years ago. Kansas was able to knock off Texas in Austin. I don't necessarily think they are going to win, but I do think this could be maybe a back and forth game. Both of these offenses are very, very efficient and they're very good. And I just don't see Texas maybe blowing the doors off of Kansas in this game, though I do worry about Kansas's defense. But give me the Jayhawks plus 17 against the Longhorns. I also think Kansas will be motivated, as every Big 12 team is, to try when they get one last crack at Texas. So I think they're gonna have some trick plays, some really good game plan and everything like that in place. So
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to take Arizona State plus 11.5 at
mm.
Cal. Don't think Cal is good enough to be a double-digit favorite at home against anyone. ASU, I thought, played pretty dang well against USC. They are expected to get Trenton Bourguet back this week, so they're going to get a little healthier on offense. I don't know if ASU beats Cal on the road. I do think this is one of the better chances for ASU to get a win on the rest of the season, right? And but I don't think they're 12 points worse than Cal. So give me Arizona State plus 11.5 on the road in Berkeley.
Awesome.
Um, my pick of the week, I'm going to take LSU minus 2.5 at Ole Miss. Short favorite for the Tigers. I just think LSU's better than Ole Miss. I think LSU's 3 points better than Ole Miss. I think they have the better quarterback. And if I'm if I'm pretty high on LSU, and I think if they are who I think they are, that they'll start to kind of show it in the middle part of the season before they get to Alabama, before they get to play Auburn, right? Before they get Texas A&M at the end of the season. This is a game where you should win by at least 7 points if you're LSU. Scares me a little bit. It's your first true road game. But I'm going to trust Jane Daniels, the experience. I think the LSU offense is starting to do some really good things. They scored 34 against Arkansas, scored 42 against Mississippi State. So give me LSU minus 2.5 at Ole Miss.
Well, Ryan, I hope we have better luck this week with our picks of the week because that was mine as well.
Let's go.
For a lot of the same reasons you mentioned. But yeah, I'll be taking LSU minus 2.5. I just think they're a better team. Ole Miss just really has not impressed me much at all this year. I still have no idea why they're ranked. They beat up on a not great Georgia Tech team. They barely
Yep.
beat Tulane, who was playing a backup quarterback because Michael Pratt was hurt. And then Alabama just kind of toyed with them defensively, and I think LSU kind of had their closer than comfort game against Arkansas this past week. I think they're more closer to
Yep.
what they did against Mississippi State than they were the team they were, and I don't see them playing two very close games against teams that I think they are superior than in a row. So that's why I think like you mentioned. I think they at least win this game by a touchdown. So yeah, LSU 2.5 was an easy one relatively for me to take.
Yep. All right, give us your lock of the
Bye of the
week.
week. So I had mentioned when we had brought up Pitt in Virginia Tech, they are playing this week. I am taking the under 41 and a half, especially with Pitt. Phil Dracovic probably not going to play this week. Their left tackle or their starting left tackle also is going to be out this week, and this offense has been dreadful. Pitt, they might have the worst offense in the ACC. Just has not worked out. We kind of had high hopes for them with Phil Dracovic coming back to his old offensive coordinator at his days at Boston College. And then we talked about the struggles with Virginia Tech playing their backup quarterback, just not being able to get much of anything going on offensively. They're in the hundreds when it comes to rushing yards, passing yards, scoring offense. So give me the under 41 and a half in Pitt, Virginia Tech.
I like that a lot. I almost my initial lock of the week was Pitt minus 2.5, and then I was like, I don't want to bet on bad teams. Like, why would I do this to myself? Why would I just not, So I'm gonna take another short favorite. Give me Oregon State minus 2.5 against Utah. Listen, the principle is this: the Pac-12 does this every year. They're gonna beat up on each other, and it would be shocking if the Pac-12 had more than one team go undefeated, and probably more than one team that had one loss. These teams are going to start beating up on each other. Doesn't mean they're not as good as the other teams in the SEC or the Big Ten or whatever. It's just what happens when you play every team in your league. The team in the Pac-12 will play 80-something% of the teams in its league. So Oregon State at home, I think they get right. Utah, I just think has been playing with fire the last handful of weeks. I don't know the status of Cam Rising. My best guess is they're not going to bring him back on a short week on the road against Oregon State. Maybe I could be wrong. If they play Nate Johnson, I feel a lot better about this because they just really can't throw the football. And I don't think this team is nearly as good away from Rice Eccles as they are at Rice Eccles. They probably should have lost to Baylor. So give me Oregon State minus 2.5 against the Utah Utes.
I don't hate that. My only worry with that is if, like, all of a sudden Friday, like 2 hours before the game, Pete Thamel has a report that Cam Rising has gone through warmups and is expected to start tonight, and then it's like, well, crap. Then again, who knows how good he would be in his first game back too. He might be pretty rusty, but no, I don't. I like that, especially if Nate Johnson is the guy again for a third or fourth week in a row.